hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, just one little factor here before we start this video here today. If for any reason my YouTube channel gets taken down, which could happen because we're challenging the deep state and we're challenging the powers behind the scenes. But if it does get taken down, I'm going to share the link below here. We have a website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and you can subscribe on there to our updates and our newsletters, etc., that are being produced by Lee Hemington. But you'll be able to keep in touch with what's going on. So at the moment, everything is nice and smooth. But if for any reason we get taken down, you simply go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, and you'll get all the information as to where we are or where you can view our videos.
And a good Friday afternoon, everyone. Chris McDonald on this special live McFiles Friday late afternoon special. We are honored, always honored, to have new guests with us, and we have got one today. I actually met him. He's not new to me, but he's going to be new to some of you all. And a lot of folks already know him. Dr. Charlie Ward across the pond there in the beautiful country of Spain. It is an honor, absolute honor to have him today as a first-time guest on the McFiles. Charlie, I've loved getting to know you a little bit on the panel with Denise Boland, and it's been an awesome time together. But I'm just so glad to have you on my show today, and hope this is the one of many discussions to come. And I'm just honored to have you, my friend. Welcome to the McFiles, and hope we have a great time today.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute privilege to be on your show.
Well, the privilege is mine, my friend. You know, we were talking, and you had your beautiful 10-year-old son there, and we were chatting a little bit, and our title of our program today is Our Children's Our Future. Charlie, I tell you, there's just an all-out assault on the kids, you know, by this deep state. I firmly believe, and this is just an opinion, one of the greatest things that President Trump has done in his presidency, when all the smoke clears and all the attacks are gone and he goes back to his normal life, if it can never be normal after this, I think one of his greatest accomplishments has been that he has tackled the child trafficking, the pedophilia, the attacks on the children head on, unlike any president ever has. And that says a lot, because I don't think there's been anybody that has making it a top priority of his administration to make sure that these pedophile rings, these trafficking rings, this illegal activity over the border, these God knows what goes on in those camps down there south of the border in Mexico and all, with the sexual abuse of women and children and everything. But our children are our future. And if we can't fight for them, man, can't fight for anybody, because they're the most vulnerable and the least protected. And we got to fight for them first.
I couldn't agree more. I've had many conversations over the last few days and weeks about exactly this, and I don't think you or I had any idea how bad things were. I've been on a panel conversation with 188 Australians 2 days ago, when I found out Ricardo Bossi was hosting it, and Sasha Stone and myself were invited to be on there. And we're learning that they've already found over 300,000 children in Melbourne underground. In total in Australia, they think there's somewhere around 1 million children that they'll find. I mean, they found a huge amount in America. And what I don't understand, Chris, is why we haven't realized this before. And then you suddenly start looking and realize that the mainstream media, the governments, have been protecting and hiding this. And Donald Trump, let's get it for real. Whether you love him or hate him, I don't give a shit, really. I'll be honest with you. If he saved one woman and one child from trafficking and pedophilia, he's a good man.
Right.
But he hasn't. He saved not just hundreds, not just thousands, not just tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and you still don't like him. What's wrong with you? Well, your mind is that badly corrupted that this man is doing so much for society. People need to wake up to what he's actually doing Forget his floppy hair. Forget his tweets. He's doing an amazing job.
Yeah, I'm with you there, buddy. I can't. I'll return the favor. I couldn't agree more. And you know, he saved more than one. He's made it a priority, Charlie. That's the difference. You know, all these other people have talked a good game, and somebody even talked a good game. I would argue some of these presidents we've had, former presidents, have been involved in some of this stuff. I'll be honest with you. I think, you know, it's almost been like they've been gatekeepers. And you mentioned that nobody's dealt with it. They've been gatekeepers to it. They've protected these rings because a lot of this stuff goes into the government. And you know, I'm sort of slow coming around to a lot of this because we've been doing the show roughly 3 years now. Before 2018, Chris was unaware of a lot of this stuff. By 2019, I got guests on here like you and others, and I began to hear a lot of this and began to research myself. But I can tell you, in 2020. Before the world ended with this COVID mess and all, Chris is red pills. Chris gets it, and I understand what we're fighting for on the show. And but I've never seen anything quite corrupt as to every level of society, Charlie. Every level of society: the entertainment industry, the education industry, the political arena, the church arena. All arenas of society are been stained by this pedophilia, abuse, trafficking of kids. And then you've got to ask yourself the question, as I've asked, you step back, who's been protecting these rings all of these years? Because this is not like something that just we woke up yesterday and these things existed. This has been going on for decades and basically confronted. Nobody's confronted them except this man that we've got in office right now, and Donald Trump.
Well, your last 4 presidents not only have protected them, but have been involved.
Absolutely.
They've been involved in this business, and they all try and hide it away, but they're filthy, dirty, disgusting people that are involved in that kind of world. And all power to Donald Trump for calling them out, because they've done everything they can to discredit him, to kill him, to remove him from office, because their filthy, dirty empire is falling down. And I was very, very pleased to hear a few months back that they were past the critical stage. And we're now in the last throes of it, but we're starting. I don't think the public is ready yet for the truth, and hopefully they won't tell everybody the whole truth, but hopefully people will be aware of what's gone on. We don't need to know all the details. It's disgusting. For those people who are new to see me, I lost my firstborn son 11 years ago in a car accident. And so I understand pain and suffering with your own children. He was my firstborn son. You know, God has blessed me with Justin, who's 10 years old now. I didn't actually make him, but we got together when he was 2 years old, and I don't regard the word step as being the right word. He's my son. End of story. He's not a second-class citizen. God blessed me with him, and he's been an absolutely wonderful child. And you never get over losing your firstborn son. It's a bit like losing your arm. You learn to live with it.
It's right. Yeah, you know, absolutely. Loss of a child is deeper probably than even losing anything else. I totally agree with that, and our condolences to you. But I'm glad he's a precious kid. He was on. For those that didn't see him, I got to see him, and I met him on the panel the other day, and he was on right before me and Charlie came on live. He's a good kid, just beautiful young man. Charlie, another thing I wanted to bring you on to talk about today a little bit. We've been on 2 panels together with Denise Bowen, and you mentioned something, and I had really not heard this, and as you're talking today, you're gonna be educating the host even a little bit on this stuff still. But you were talking a little bit about what's going on with 2 areas of the country, and I really want you to home in on that. Number one is the voting situation. I actually had somebody email me today and asked me about voting on the computer, and it perked my ears because in our last little discussion on Denise, quantum voting is what you called it, I guess. And I want you to tell everybody what's afoot, at least what you can tell us. Let me just say this about Charlie, folks. Charlie, he is a decoder, but he's very, very knowledgeable of a lot of things. There's some things he can talk about. There's some things he can't. But we're not talking to some novice here, folks. This is a Hall of Fame type guy here. He's just a humble, down-to-earth guy like Chris is, but Chris recognizes that Charlie knows what's going on in the world. That's why I love him to death already. But tell us a little bit about what you do know, what you can talk to us about what's coming, because there's a revolution coming with the voting in America and maybe all parts of the world, Charlie, but it's going to eliminate a lot of this fear about the voter fraud. It's going to take the teeth out of the deep state's effort to defraud elections for years to come, if not forever. Tell us a little bit about that.
If we start very, very simply, I've worked behind the scenes with governments around the world, including the American government, for many, many years. So I was privy to information that came out. First of all, I was told 6 years ago, then 2 years ago, and then in December, they were going to collapse the world's economy for global financial reset. But the most important part of that is the fact that to remove the Federal Reserve as a financial system, to remove the SWIFT system as a financial system and replace it with a quantum financial system. Now, the old system was actually pulled to one side on the 31st of August this year. The new system was put into place on the 2nd of August this year and is actually currently in operation. But the deep state and the cabals have been desperate to try and stop it. There's been a huge fight because their power is being taken away from them. And you'll understand more what I say about power being taken away when we talk about the voting side. This new financial system is not like the old SWIFT system that is easily corruptible. It's a digital system that is based on the blockchain system. And this system itself has been set up for instant settlement around the world, starting with America. But also on the side of this system, on the quantum financial system, on the quantum part, most of the Democrats are completely oblivious to this right now, thank God, because they're spending millions on postal votes, which have no value. Because when you go to the election in November the 3rd, the voting system that you'll be using will be the quantum voting system. So you'll be able to vote off your mobile phone or off your computer by registering. And it is completely impossible right now to actually fix it or manipulate it in any way, shape, or form. And some of the Democrats have already sussed this out. And this is why panic has set in. They're absolutely panicking right now. And for the first time in history in America, you might actually get somebody you vote for, which would be quite a nice feeling. Because, and between you and I'm going to predict that Donald Trump will probably get in by around 90%.
Wow.
Because had the Clintons not tried to fix the previous election 4 years ago, he would have won by 75%. Let that sink in. He would have won by 75% if it hadn't been fixed. This is why Hillary Clinton didn't have a speech prepared. She never dreamt that there was any way possible, because she had it fixed for her to win, and he still won.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's a terrible thing to lose a fixed election,
isn't it? Just
and you still lose. It's not good. It don't look well on the tally. But Charlotte, what we've been dealing with, though, you think about it, buddy. What we've been dealing with since 2016, since he actually, you can go back to January 2017 when he first laid his hand on that Bible and was inaugurated. We have been dealing with the fallout, with the deep state being pissed off that she did lose. They still not come to grips with that, that they had this election stolen and he took it.
Yeah.
They underestimated we the people out here.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing the same thing. And, you know, I can't see what's ahead in 2 months. We got about 60 some odd days to go before this election. I will tell you this, though. They are doing I've seen nothing but a complete concentrated effort again. They don't care about Joe Biden. Joe Biden's a joke. Joe Biden's a joke. Kamala Harris is a joke. But they are trying to do the same thing again in 2020. Are they not? They're trying to steal it again.
They're going to try to, but the trouble is that they could only steal if it was going to be the old voting system. With the new system that will be in place ready for the election, this is when the penny will finally drop with all of them, that there's absolutely no point, because they'll lose by such a massive margin. The one thing with the American people is they're not stupid. There's two things when you come to an election. What his hair color is, how he tweets is completely irrelevant.
That's right.
Have I got a job, and am I getting paid enough money to look after my family? That's it. What you look like doesn't matter. And the reality is Joe Biden has been a politician for over 45 years and done absolutely nothing for you. Nothing at all. He's had plenty of time. And every time he comes to an election, it's promises, 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 and nothing happens. The biggest shock with Donald Trump was when he promised you something, he actually did it. And that upset everybody. And I've heard people complaining, I can't believe you're doing this. Well, hang on, that's what I said I was going to do. But you've been so used to people saying they're going to do something and doing nothing, it's quite a shock to the system when they actually start doing it. You know, Obama talked about building the wall when he wanted to get in power.
Yes.
It wasn't a problem then. But suddenly when Trump wants to build a wall, all hell breaks loose.
It's a great point.
Yeah, exactly. Any excuse. You need to, the world needs to get over identity politics, because this is what the deep state, the cabals, will have you believe. It's very divisive between Democrat and Republican. This election that we're coming up to has got nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. It's between good and evil. And that'll be your choice. And I was surprised that even the evil side would get 10% votes. But some people are just, they're not even asleep. They're in a coma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm with you, Charles. Yeah. And you said that, not to interrupt you, but you said that on the panel, and that struck a chord with me last week when we were together. But I'm going to tell you that of all the discussion that we had, that what you said struck a huge chord with me, because I felt like, you know, it was this past Tuesday, actually, you know, of all the things that people don't get, they can understand good and evil if they got a brain. They may not understand politics, may not understand the deep state, may not understand the military intel that's out there. They may not understand a lot of things about a lot of things. But if you've got any kind of morality, if you got any kind of conscience, if you got any kind of clarity of mind as to what your society, and look at that beautiful young man that was in this picture with me a while ago, for his sake, and this is about the children today. It's about, Charlotte, me and you're not going to be on this landscape forever. I mean, we and you about the same age. If the Lord gives us another 20, 25 years, I'll be dancing a jig. Give me another 30, 40, I'll be blessed, and I'll take that as an extra cherry on top. But the reality of it is, me and you are not going to be here forever. And the world that we leave our children is going to be far more important than anything we can ever put in money. And we can't put a price tag on that. And I don't want to leave them this cesspool that I see in my mirror today, in my view of things. And this fight that we're fighting is worth fighting, because we're not just fighting for me and Charlie Ward. We're fighting for Justin. We're fighting for Caleb Joseph McDonald and Elias David, my grandson. I'm fighting for them. I don't want them to have to deal with this mess when I'm dead and gone. And I want them to look back. I tell you what else I want, Charlie. When my name's mentioned to them, I want my kids with some pride to say, you know something? My dad may have been a little cray-cray. My dad may have been a little touched. Yeah. But one thing I can tell you about my dad and my granddaddy, he fought like hell for his country, and he fought like hell for us to make sure that we didn't have to deal with this evil that's out there in this world today. Cool. I think the most common sense person can understand that.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And we need to get away from all this identity of the political scene, of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and just stand up for what's right. And most people know what's right. Because what the deep state and the cabal want to do is divide us. And so this is why they have these parties. And if they can't divide us that way, they'll do it because you're black or you're white or because you're Christian or you're Muslim. And if that doesn't work, they go because you're a man and a woman, you know. It's all about dividing people. Because the minute we come together, they've lost.
They've lost.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Charlie, I want to ask you a question. And Rachel Ham's going to be coming back on the show next week. My dear friend Rachel, such a precious soul, just as you are, buddy. I want you to tell a little bit about the Chinese railroad things. Rachel's going to come back on next week and talk a little bit more in detail, but give people out there, because this is your first appearance, and there's a lot of people in the McFiles audience that has not heard about this Chinese bond thing with the railroads. And tell everybody a little bit about that, what you can. Just explain it in layman's terms to them, and why you believe this is something that's on the horizon, very huge for our economy. And if somebody has invested in these bonds, and other things like that. And you can deal with investment in currency and what you feel like's out there hot. Tell everybody about that, because I found that so intriguing, because I'm sort of a novice at this, and it even perked my interest, and I know it would perk our interest in the audience. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, I've been very close friends with the most powerful family in China now for probably 15 to 20 years. I know the family very, very well. I do a lot of business with and for them. And when we go over there, my wife and I and my family, they're the first people to come to Hong Kong to take us out for dinner. They're good people. But I've learned an awful lot about their history. And of course, the Communist Party, they're not part of. They're part of the Himalayan descent. And they've had bonds, golden bonds, dragon bonds, many bonds for many, many years. And they're incredibly valuable. And there are bonds around the world that people own, Chinese bonds, that are owned people have them in America, people have picked them up around the world, and they are going to be monetized. They're going to be capitalized. Some of them have been already. They took a number of bonds to the Swiss bank about 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago maybe. And they valued them at over $2 quadrillion. Now that's a huge, huge number. They actually only monetized 100 trillion of them at that time. But these bonds are out there, and there are people who have them. There is a number of different types of bonds out there, but just be careful with them, because there's a lot of naughty boys out there that have fake ones.
Right.
So it's important that, as with anything, there's fake $100 bills, there's fake bonds, and there's probably more fake bonds than there are real ones because of the value of them. So, but if you've got them from a good source and they are real, then they're going to be worth a considerable sum of money. And there will be, they're in the process of setting up redemption centers. And somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, Charlie, you told everyone about these 800 numbers, and I've heard that's a load of rubbish." No, it wasn't a load of rubbish at all. They tried the 800 numbers, and within 48 hours of them being operative, somebody had hacked into them. That's why they got stopped, not for the reason they weren't going to. So now they're looking at, they have a plan B and a plan C. They're looking at plan B, which is a secure website, which you can log in and find out that way. But as with America, the 800 numbers was the easy option to start with. And they, for some reason, it got hacked some which way. I don't know how, but I was told it had been hacked. So that's why they would they'd shut those down, and they were going to go ahead with it on the secure website. And at this moment in time, you have to understand we're in a third world war, and the good side is winning, but the bad side is not giving up without a fight. Absolutely. And they're putting up one hell of a fight right now to try and stop all these things happening, because they're losing control. And we're in a war, and we're not being asked to fight ourselves, apart from Chris and I, who are in the front line of the digital warfare, if you like, of getting the truth out there to people and keeping people informed as to what's going on.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let me ask you this general question. You're overseas. How is all of this playing when you see the American landscape, Charlie, and you see what's going on with President Trump, the DOJ, all of this criminal activity, the corruption, all of it? How is this playing overseas as they're looking in on us? How does the Europeans feel about us under Trump as compared to how they felt about us under Obama? I know Europe in general is very liberal. Most of the governments in Europe are very, very liberal, ultra liberal. But there are pockets of conservatism, and I would argue that Europe may be more conservative than we may even give it credit for. I think I look at Europe like I do California here in America, that if you start talking to the normal people in California, most people will tell you that California in general is a conservative state, even though it feels like it's liberal. It's just a pocket. The pockets that are liberal are so influential that it makes you feel like the whole is liberal. And
Yeah.
Europe, I almost believe, is probably the same way. If you look at the uprisings and you look at the populist movement that has exploded in Europe over the last probably 5 to 10 years, and especially since Trump. Look, I look at Brexit, and I look at other movements in Italy, and all of these little pockets that people have just said, we're fed up with this cabal, because the cabal's not just over here, buddy. It's over there in your backyard.
There's a lot of it going on here. And we look at you guys over there. And of course, it's very, very easy for us to see where the trouble is. The trouble tends to be when you've got corrupt mayors and corrupt leaders in those states. And at the moment, the predominantly corrupt mayors happen to be Democrats. That's not to say they all are, they're not. There are some very good Democrats and there's some very bad Republicans.
Very true.
Let's get that right. But that's what we need to move away from, and just work out what's good and what's evil. You know, if you've got a good mayor, it doesn't matter who they represent. If he's holding up law and order and keeping people under control and keeping them safe, that's what people want. But at the moment, because of the deep state and also Antifa and all that rubbish that's going on, they're doing it on purpose. This is all staged to cause trouble. This isn't organic. This is all people that are being employed to cause trouble by Antifa, because they're losing the battle. So they're putting up a fight here and fight there. And well, the minute I saw that people were putting out bricks by the roadside when there was about to be a demonstration, you just go, this is wrong. This is wrong.
Yeah. Have you all had any of this mess over there, the Antifa Black Lives Matter movement over there?
We've had it over here, and it's you can tell it. Anybody that's got any common sense at all can work out exactly what it is. It's, you know, we've grown up with terrorist cells of all different types, and that's all they are. They're not normal people. They're not. They try and make out it's normal. This is all staged, all set up by the deep state and the cabals to try and cause chaos, because they're desperate to remove Donald Trump. And of course they can't. And they won't be able to, because I'll tell you why that they won't be able to touch him. Because God's got his hand on him.
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt, buddy. God's got his hand on a lot of folks right now. And I think that, Charlie, you know, what I believe is happening is that you mentioned the good and evil. A lot of this stuff, I believe, is you know, a lot of people, they scream about President Trump not stepping in and stopping a lot of this. But I have to tell you, I almost think it's strategic. And since you deal in this area of strategic information and all, you can help me with this. I think he's doing it on purpose, because the more they get exposed, exactly. You mentioned the good and evil. Look, it's pretty blatant out there. We don't, you know, there's something in life called gray areas. Yeah. And there are a lot of gray areas in life. There just are. Everything's not absolute sometimes, because there's some things that the Lord himself in heaven leaves a lot of things to us to decide which way we want to go. And there are absolutes, certainly, but there's a lot of areas that are not. This thing with good and evil is not. This is blatantly down the line. There's no wishy-washy, no spent straddling. You cannot not take a side. And by not taking a side, you're basically taking the side of evil, in my opinion.
That's exactly right.
I just think that all of this stuff that's going on, he's letting it happen to expose these people, that they're literally exposing themselves. Am I wrong in that?
You're absolutely spot on, because the old-fashioned Democrat mind would not believe, if he said what he was doing, they wouldn't believe him. They wouldn't believe the Democrats would do this. So he's having to let them show how evil they are. And this is what's happening. The people of America need to wake up to what's evil. You don't have to like Donald Trump. That's not an issue. What you have to get over is his image and his looks. Get over that. Look at what he's done for you as people. He's created more jobs. He's created more income. He's created a safer place.
Yes, he is.
And what he looks like and what he tweets about really is, if you're that shallow, you need to grow a pair. You need to grow up, because, you know, he's creating work, he's creating income, and he's creating a safer place, and he's removing evil. And if you can't get it, then there's something missing in your brain.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you there. And the hatred, though, but Charlie, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just go cement what you just said. There is something wrong with the people's brains over here in this country. Look, I've never seen a party, call it political party, call it a movement, call it a group. I don't know what you call liberals. This liberalism, you know, there was a book out several years ago called Liberalism of Mental Disorder, and people got all offended at the title of it. But I have to tell you, the one that wrote it was right on the spot. It is a mental disorder. How can you sit there and say that liberalism is right when everything they push is death?
Yeah.
It's death, man. Abortion. You kill the babies in the womb.
Yeah.
Death panels with the insurance. Look, Sarah Palin got hammered in 2008 when she first basically let the cat out of the bag that everybody knew was true, that Obamacare was nothing but a freaking death panel, because they were going to tell the elderly, they were going to tell the people that didn't have insurance, you either do it our way or you don't get your care, and screw you up your butt, because we don't care if you die or not. You're going to do it our way or you don't get your health care. Charlie, that's a death panel. That's a death panel. Capitalism is being shattered in this country, basically attacked on every form with communism and socialism, which has the blood of multiple millions of people dead on its hands, that it leaves in its wake of history. All of it. Charlie, it's a party of death. Liberalism, it promotes death. It promotes baby killing. And again, who in their right mind wants to embrace that unless you're liberally, mentally off?
Yeah. Well, the moral compass for people has been completely out of sync, and people need to look inside themselves and reset their moral compass. Because I remember when I'm 60 years old now, I remember when I was a young man looking up to America as a proud country. And Donald Trump remembers those days. That's why he wants to make America great again.
That's right.
Because it was once great, but it's lost its way. It's lost its way. And he's going to get you back on track and get you great again. It's been run by corrupt leaders. What's gone on behind the scenes is absolutely disgusting. The way it's been run is absolute, and they're scared. They're scared to death now because they're going to get exposed for what they are, and it's biblical. We're in the period of revelation. We're in the period of the Great Awakening. This is where we're at right now, and the truth will always win. We all know that, but now is the time when the truth will win and expose what's evil. And thank God it's come in my lifetime. And we're living in an amazing time, aren't we, Chris?
That's very true. And I think that I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be alive right now. Look, it's rough, Charlie. Look, I know it's rough over there where you're at. It's rough here in America. There's a lot of people that are feeling it. I mean, I think the anxiety, and you go back to what the deep state's tried to do. Look, they've tried to put this COVID-19 noose around our neck and make life unbearable for so many. I mean, hell, you can't even go get a hamburger now unless you got to have to wear a mask. It's the craziest, most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. It's tyranny. It's nothing but tyranny. There was a guy out, had a video out this week, and he's a good guy. It's two-minute video, but in that 2-minute video, he was basically warning these punk kids from Black Lives Matter. He said, look, he said, the American people are going to push back eventually. And he said, you need to understand that these are the same people that were farmers and basically common folks out in the field when the British started trying to promote tyranny on them. And these colonists basically stood up to the biggest empire of the world at the time and took them down. And he told Black Lives Matter, he said, listen, he said, if these people can take the British government down, do you think you're going to be anything but a speck for them to take down? And Charlie, I just think that the people, we the people, this is the fight. We can either fight for our government, and it's not about Trump. I'm talking about this corrupt government. And let me tell you something, we can keep letting them push us around, and they're going to keep doing it till we're not going to have any rights at all, brother. And I'm going to tell you something, me and you won't be talking online. We'll be talking through jail cells. Me and you'll be doing air pigeon. I'll be sending you text through the jail cell, man, because I think all this has been a test. I do. I think all of this COVID, all of these mandates, all of this stuff has been nothing but a test run for something huge they're trying to do later. How am I wrong on that? How far off am I?
No, this is what the deep state wanted to do, but thank God that Donald Trump has actually pulled it back from the edge. I mean, the deep state wanted this new world order and wanted one world government, etc., etc. That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has come in to save us from an awful position that we could have been in. We were that close. We were that close to being in their system, and thank God he's exposing them. And this is why from day one, right from day one, they've been out to get him, because they realized that he was going to take them down. And he's a guy that's doesn't need their money, hasn't taken a salary. He didn't need to do this. He's doing it for the American people, to provide the American people with their families with a better world, a better future. And I take my hat off to him.
I do too, buddy. I do. Why do you think people are in general willing to just bow down and not? And I get the term sheep. I get it. I know there's sheep out there, and there's others of us that are not willing just to go along with the flow. I'm one of those. I just don't. I'm not a conformist. I've never been a conformist. I'm just not. I mean, you don't. I'm not the kind of personality that you just tell me to do something, Chris is just going to do it. I just ain't going to do it. I've always been a loner. I've always been to myself, and this stuff's been coming down the pike, and it's been driving me crazy. But what's been driving me more crazier is the way that the publics, and I'm talking Europe too, I'm talking both Europe and America, have just fallen into line without any kind of resistance. And I know that it's going to eventually get worked out, but are you in agreement with me that China was not really the source? I mean, they're the source, but they were just the pawns and the tools of something greater to bring the governments of the world into control and bring them into submission to this, what you're talking about, this attempt to control people. It's just it's a control thing, Charlie.
Yeah, on the first part of that, you're talking about the mainstream media have programmed people.
Okay.
Indoctrinated, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it. They've programmed people. One thing that you need to understand is yes, the laboratory was in China. Dr. Fauci and his team funded it. So it was funded with American money. You had American doctors and specialists in that laboratory. They were scientists from America as well as China. But it's a bit like I can't think of his name now. The guy that the baseball player or basketball player that O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson.
Yeah. Football player. Yeah.
Everybody knew that he did it, and they knew he'd get away with it. You knew two things: one, he did it, and two, he'd get away with it. It's right. It's the same with this. We know where it came from. You'll never ever prove how it got out, because the Americans were working with the Chinese in the same building. Who let it out? Who opened the door? Who leaked it? Whatever. Something you'll never ever prove, because they'll always blame somebody else. That's and you don't gain anything. America will always say it was in China. Well, yeah, it did. It came out of China, but that laboratory was full of Americans as well as Chinese, and it was funded for by the Americans. So there'll come a time, I'm sure, 30 years down the line, where they go, "Oh, it was Dr. Fauci that opened the door, was it? Okay."
Is there anybody we can trust, Charlie, in this world other than Trump? Is that circle small? Is that circle small? And I asked that to you tongue in cheek, but I'm asking it to you very seriously a little bit, because you have, as you said, you have talked and you've worked behind the scenes, and more so than probably most, what's really going on in the real world out there of politics, of government, intelligence, law, things like that, the legal community. And is our circle of trust a small one? I don't think we can trust too many people in this whole.
No, I agree with you. And I'll tell you somebody that I'll surprise you with that you can trust. Putin.
Wow.
That will surprise a lot of people. He's working very closely with Donald Trump. The one thing with Putin, he's a man of his word. If you do well for him, you'll do very, very well. If you cross him, as he says in his own language, I won't remove you. I won't judge you, but I'll send you to a man who will. Which is which is his
I
way
can
of
almost
doing.
hear that. I can almost hear that in Russian right now. That's what it makes me
Exactly right.
like
But
that.
I love that statement. I've worked with some characters like him in my life, including him. And you know very, very well that if you do well, they'll look after you. I had the privilege today of interviewing a young lady, who worked for Trump for many, many years. Melody Kay.
Yeah.
She was telling me, she said, you know what? As a man, if you did your job, he looked after you like nothing on earth. If you messed up, he'd fire you. But she said that's how it was. She said he knew everybody by name and he never forgot a birthday.
Wow.
And that tells you an awful lot about the man.
Yeah.
You know, he's a caring, considerate man. I like him.
I do. Well, Charlie's a businessman. And look, let's face it, countries are businesses.
Yeah.
And if you don't run it like a business, like any company, you got a profit and loss statement, man. If you're out there wasting money and spending money you don't have and basically doing frivolous decisions and basically giving away your goods, giving away your trade secrets, giving away, letting every company out there take advantage of you, letting your competition go out there and beat you in the open market, you're going to fail as a business. And Charlie, I would argue you're going to fail as a country. And, you know, Trump, I heard him say this the other night in his speech last Thursday night, a week ago last night. And it caught me as he was talking about it, because there was a part in that speech that he talked about why he ran for president. And he said, I couldn't keep sitting around and watch America be shredded and raped by her competitors and the leadership that we had, letting them do this. I had to step in and stop it. Yeah. And the American people got on board with that. Yeah. And whether it was the wall, whether it was China, whether it was trade, whether it was these useless wars where people were being killed uselessly just for the sake of big oil and big government and the pawn game of the deep states and just all this and the corruption in politics, the legal system, the two-tier justice system, no matter what it was, the underlying factor, President Trump was not president all the time. He was a businessman before he was a president. Yeah. And he's taken our country. And I think another great thing he's done, he's taken America's books, her economic books, and he says, this don't work economically. We're not going to do that. That's not going to work economically. We're not going to do that no more. That's not going to bring us profit. That's not going to do it. We're going to make America first. It wasn't just some campaign slogan, Charlie. No, he has made America first. And if it ruffles feathers, if it pisses people off, makes people want to shit bricks in their pants, guess what? Trump don't care. We've never had a leader like that, and we may never have a leader like him after that. We better enjoy it while we got it, because he's about to fix a lot of things that should have been fixed for 70 years.
Unless JFK Jr. comes back.
That there are some that believe that, yes.
Exactly.
That is true. Hey, but let me ask you this. Let me just mention this to our audience, Charlie. But am I right on Trump, the business model? The businessman of him has been what has been the difference in him and other presidents. He has run this country like a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's made America great again already. And he's going to make it greater.
Yeah, I believe that. Folks, you're watching a live McFiles special this Friday afternoon. I got my dear friend Charlie Ward with us. This is his first time on our show. We're very honored to have him. He's just a good guy. And we've bonded together already. I've been on a couple of panels with him and Denise Boland. If you're listening to us out there, I want to thank you for hosting those panels and Charlie and us. And you mentioned it a while ago about Melanie Kay. And, you know, I sense that about Trump. I've always noticed that about him, that, look, he expects a level of performance, Charlie. I mean, he expects people to do their jobs. I don't think that's too bad to me. I don't think that's a bad thing. No. You're hired to do something, you do it right, you know, but he does care about the people around him. I've heard that from sources inside that White House, that this man, is the best boss you'll ever have. You don't want to cross him. You don't want to get on his bad side. But if you'll do your job and be loyal to him, then you've got a friend for life. And, you know, people make loyalty a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not a bad term, guys. You need to be loyal to those that hire you. You need to be loyal to your country. You need to be loyal to your president. It's not like he's a king. But that's not a bad thing to be loyal, correct?
It's so important. it's also very important not just to be loyal, but to do the best that you can.
Amen.
And if you do the best that you can, then there's not a boss in the world, a good boss in the world that won't look after you. But the trouble is we've been through a period of time where there's a lot of bad bosses around.
Very true.
And those days are changing.
I'll agree. Guys, if you got a question or two for Charlie, we've got about 15 minutes or so here, and I'm going to let the last 15 minutes be opened up to our audience. But it's just so good to have you. I want you to do something. You mentioned you've been all over the country. A lot of people don't know who you are. And just take about 5 minutes and tell us a little bit about Dr. Charlie Ward and some of the things that you are involved in, because I found you intriguing. You're like a what do they call those, folk heroes? You've already become a folk hero in my book. You're like this icon, and I think you're cool, as we Southerners say. We just think you're cool, Charlie. But tell everybody about how you got into this and how you the circles you traffic in, because it's some deep stuff, isn't it?
Well, I've been working. I was in the hotel business for many years, and the holiday business, and we used to have people coming to stay of reasonable standing. And of course, you look after them in a different way, and you know they always want your best suites and best apartments and best this, and they want privacy. So you look after them, and you get to know them. You very often entertain them. You go out for a meal in the evening, or whatever. So you get to know a lot of people, and by the nature of being a hotel business and resorts, you change people's money, and people come on holiday and change of currency or whatever. They've got euros or pounds in the whatever they've got, you change them. In the old days it was pesetas in Spain. So I've done that for many years, and then suddenly you get it started up, I think, 30 years ago, and I was actually in one of the offices, and somebody just walked into my office and said, "Oh, I need some money in London. Do you know anyone that I could get it there today?" I said, "Yeah, if you give me," this was in Singapore, "if you give me the money here in Singapore dollars, you can have it this afternoon in London in pounds." And that's how it started. And then you've got people, going, "Oh, I've got this amount of cash in my house and I want to buy a house," and they won't take cash. Need to put it in the bank. We used to have banks in the old days, with Bank of Credit and Commerce, that would take large amounts of cash. Still to this day, there's many banks that will do that. Nowadays, you have to, and I've always made declarations. I've always declared everything properly. The rules have changed dramatically over the years. Proof of funds is one thing. Donald Trump has not just asked for proof of funds, he's looking for source of funds, history of funds. That's no problem. Most of my clients can provide that anyway. But now we're starting to understand these people weren't so stupid after all, because not one of them trusted the banks. So they kept their money outside of the banks. And for anybody who doesn't know, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. The banks only insure an individual for up to $75,000. So when you're talking about millionaires and billionaires, this is why they tend to have it in assets and gold and stocks and whatever. They have it all over the place. But let's say you're a millionaire or a billionaire even, let's say you've got 5 million in the bank, and the bank goes bankrupt, you're only going to get 75,000 back. So people tend not to have large amounts of cash in the bank. They tend to have it hidden away. And I have 4 or 5 of my clients who have huge safes. One particular gentleman, who's the leader of his country, has a safe that's probably 100 meters long, 50 meters wide, full of banknotes, gold, all kinds of things. It's an underground safe. And then they'll come to you and say, "Charlie, we need to move this money here because I want to have this boat made for me," or whatever. I want to have this private jet. And then you take the money, and we move it very securely by air or whatever. It's all fully declared. That's the important part. It's fully declared. So it's not a shifty business, although people always think it is because of the fact that you're moving large amounts of cash. I've got a client right now that's wanting to move a serious amount, billions of dollars in cash. And the first thing people say, "Well, where's it come from?" Well, with respect, he's prepared to provide all the documentation. I don't have any interest in where it's come from. If the bank asks when it's delivered, for the documentation that they deal directly between the owner of the money and the bank. I don't need to see that. That's all sent well in advance. The bank will verify it, check it, everything else before we deliver it. My job is just to make sure it's delivered safely. The documentation has been done well in advance.
Okay.
And so I've been doing that now for many, many years and moving money around for different people. And I said this to Chris right from the start. In the old days, on a private jet, I used to be on there with beautiful women, champagne and cocaine and everything else in the naughty days. But 10 years ago, I met my wife. So those days had to come to an abrupt end. And now I tend to have ambassadors or diplomats and bodyguards and all the rest of it. So it's different. Let's put it that way. It's very, very different. But when you're stuck on a plane with an ambassador or a diplomat or what have you, you sit for a number of hours and you talk about things, and you tend to meet the same guys time and time again because they're responsible. And they don't say, oh, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you that, Charlie. It's just conversation that we just have about certain things, moving things, what they're doing with things. And I was told about this 3 times, what was going to happen this year. So this is very important that it's not a conspiracy theory. I was told it was going to happen, and it's happened. And is happening. Everything you've told me so far has happened.
Wow. So
I can't, when people say, oh, it's just a conspiracy theorist, no, not really. Collapsing the world's economy on the back of a common cold.
Exactly. Come on.
Downgraded to nothing more than the common cold back in March, but completely overlooked by the mainstream media.
That's right, Charlie.
It's incredibly well documented on the government websites of every country in the world, the WHO and the CDC. You'll find it hard to find it on the WHO and CDC because they've hidden it. The easiest one to find it on, if you go onto my Facebook, is because it's on there as well. It's on the British government website, and they all followed suit. Remember that for people who remember the history of this, the person who gave the authority was from the Imperial College in London. It was Neil Ferguson. He advised the American government and the British government. So it was all put out as a statement on everybody's website. The governments realized we need to hide this, so they've hidden it away. But we've got people who can find it. Wow. So that's why I published it on my Facebook page. I published it on many, many videos so that the link can be found.
Good deal. Hey, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned the money. I'll take the first question. I got 2 or 3 good ones for you in the chat room. Investment right now, gold, silver, best bet, or are there other things we need to be looking into to put our money in safe places other than the banks?
I should say this before I answer the question. I don't have any qualifications whatsoever to give financial advice.
Okay.
But as a personal matter, I have personally chosen to buy gold. That's just a personal choice because based on the information I get, that would seem the safest thing to do.
Okay, that's fair enough. Charlie, I thought you were an expert on everything. I am just so disappointed.
I am on the basis that X is an unknown quantity and spurt is a grip under pressure.
That's why I got you on my show, Ward. I mean, you just this expert knowledge has just flowed like a river. No, the Putin comment, I'm still laughing at. I'm trying to stop laughing at that one. I love that one. Anyway, hey, a good question here. I probably know how you're going to answer this. Carol Ziegler in the YouTube chat room, she says, "What do you think of Bill Gates? He's an evil SOB, is he not? He's a pretty evil SOB. He's a big player in the deep state, isn't he?"
He's as evil as they come.
Yes.
He is Dr. Evil, but he's not even a doctor. What on earth is a computer geek doing advising the world on vaccines?
That's right.
Something I should point out here, and this is very important to point out to your audience. Bill Gates pretends he's giving lots of money away to charity. It's interesting that it's his charity. He's learned very well from the Delaware formation of companies. He sends it through a circle of 5 companies, and it just keeps going round and round in circles. Doesn't go to anybody. It's not spent on anybody, but he gets the publicity of I'm giving to this, I'm giving to this. So all his own companies going around in circles. He's a very, very corrupt, evil man. And Trump has his measure. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Does he get arrested?
Yeah, he did.
These vaccines are just evil to me, Charlie. We've not really talked about that. I may bring you on next time, just talk about the vaccine scam. But I tell you what, these vaccines to me are just so evil, and I don't think I'm too far off. I'm not on an island with that. I think a lot of people believe that this is an evil effort to depopulate the population.
I said right from day one, if you're desperate for a prick in your bottom, go to Thailand.
That's two good ones, Ward. I'm writing these down, these isms, because I'm gonna use these on future shows, and they'll think Chris is the coolest guy in the world. And say, no, this is not original. I got this from Charlie Ward. I like that. Good question here coming out of the chat room. Also, actually, going back to the money thing, what do you make of the coin shortage in America? That's actually a good question, because I'm glad they asked that, because I was going to ask you the same thing the other day and I forgot to. What's your take on all this coin shortages? What's your people telling you about what's going on behind the scenes?
We're going through a transition from the old financial system to the new quantum financial system.
Okay.
So the new financial system will be backed by gold.
Got you.
So the coin system that you have right now will be removed and replaced by new coins and new notes. So they'll gradually take these out, and then suddenly most of the American public will be completely unaware, apart from the fact there's a new coin or a new note. But it won't be a USD, it'll be a USN.
What does that stand for? You said
US note. US
note. I'm sorry, I got it. Okay, I would US note, not US dollar. It'd be US note. Okay,
that's right.
That's interesting. More valuable than the dollar, I take it.
No, 1-to-1.
Okay,
but it will be backed by gold.
Backed by gold.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It will be far more valuable.
Got you. Good stuff there. What with the quantum voting? Got some good questions coming at you here. With the quantum voting, would we not need to go to the polls then at all, or is it all going to be from your computer, or will there be both voting in person and computer? That's not a bad question.
It's not a bad question, as I understand it. If you go into a polling booth, you will have to log on to a computer with your identity. You'll be able to do it that way.
Yes.
You'll have to log in with your identity, and it will check very, very quickly with your biometrics as to whether you've done it yourself before somewhere else. But because it's a quantum system, within seconds, they will know whether you have done it in another place or not. If you're trying to do it in two places, the system is within seconds. I think within 2 seconds, it will know in the main part if you've been on there before.
I have to tell you, buddy, I voted early in the primary here in Tennessee, and I saw some subtle changes in my voting place from then till 2018. I have to tell you, I was very impressed with what they were doing, and it may have been this transition to what you're talking about, and I loved what they did. They went back to the paper ballot, but it was not just you sat down, you filled the paper ballot out, but what they did, they took you to another machine, and you put that ballot into the machine. It read out your vote, it printed out your vote, and you had to certify this is exactly what you voted for before they would click the accept the vote thing. Yeah. And I found that sort of refreshing because it was a little mixed. And I have to tell you, Charlie, you can't sit there and change a paper ballot because you got your name on it and you got that little circle that we used to do those standardized tests with in school. You had to fill in the whole thing. You can't screw around with that. That's hard to defraud that.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. Absolutely. That's a great thing. And we'll keep an eye on. That's really good stuff. Let me see if we got some other good. I know. Says Dr. Charlie, here's a good one. Do you have any knowledge about the Scandinavian monarchs? Are they going to be dealt with too? A lot of those monarchs over in your neck of the woods have been corrupt too, have they not?
Yep. Every single one of them. Trump has their number, I promise you. There's a lot being arrested in Scandinavia, a lot in Spain, a lot in the United Kingdom, and it's sovereigns as well as people in power in government. But he, without a shadow of a doubt, has every single person in his sights that has been linked up to it. If they've been linked up to corruption, trafficking, paedophilia, he knows all about them.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that the pedophile issue is still just as real and problematic in Europe as it is here? Correct?
Yep.
Probably worse in
And
many
not
ways.
just Europe, Australia, New Zealand,
Yeah.
South Africa, Canada, the whole of Europe. That is absolutely riddled with it. It's disgusting.
Yeah. We've really got some great questions coming out of the chat room today. A lot of, and I don't know much about this NESARA. Do you know about NESARA? What is NESARA and your thoughts on it? That's been several questions asked about that. What's your thoughts about
Yeah,
NESARA?
NESARA is obviously based for America. GESARA is for the rest of the world. Every country in the world has signed up to it. We're I don't think the way it's going, that it'll be called that. He's phasing it in very, very gently at the moment, bit by bit. When people understand how it works, you can go onto the internet and Google it and read about it. And we've set up a website called GESARAclub.com where we're publishing all the details because there's so much information. Most people, the first thing they say is, what, you're going to clear my mortgage? You're going to clear my student debts? Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen because the debt is illegal. It's immoral. Everything about it is wrong. Because the old Federal Reserve, and I've told many Americans this, and they just never got it. I said, that's a boys' club. It's got nothing to do with the government. It's a boys' club that just prints money and sells it to the government. It's a corrupt thing. And people said, no, it's owned by the government. I said, no, you're completely wrong. And I've had huge arguments with people. And I said, one day you'll wake up to the truth. What they've been doing is completely illegal and immoral and has been protected by so many governments, and Trump is going to expose it. So I would suggest that people go onto the internet and Google NESARA and have a read of it. Because there is a lot of information out there that you can study and understand. First of all, when you read it, you'll go, really? I can't believe that's going to happen. I can assure you things are moving that way right now as we speak. I've had lots and lots of people contact me and say, well, my mortgage has just disappeared. My student loan has just disappeared. My credit cards have just disappeared. My utility bills have just disappeared. They don't know where, nobody can explain where they've gone. So it's being rolled out gently, slowly. And everybody asks the question, when will it be my mortgage? When will my mortgage disappear? Well,
right.
I don't know. I don't know the honest answer, but I know that I'm getting a lot of people contact me, and there'll be a complete change in the taxation system. You need to read about that. There'll be a huge change in the way that we look after humanitarian issues.
Gotcha.
It's a lot to do with humanity.
Gotcha.
There'll be a change in the law. You won't be under the maritime law that you're under now. You call it, I forget which law you call it now, but you'll be returning to constitutional law, or as we call it in Europe, common law.
Right.
And Trump is working very, very hard to get that back. Because
yes.
At the moment, the laws are so corrupt themselves.
Two great questions, really great questions here. I'm going to finish up with this third one, but Von Wright, actually, and I think a lot of people are going to ask this, will people get paid back the money that they have stolen from us through Social Security? They've stolen from Social Security. That's not a bad question, Charlie. I don't think anybody's ever asked that before. What's your thoughts on that? Because this whole system has been built upon it's almost like a Ponzi scheme, what they've done to us through the centuries and through the decades here with this corrupt system of economics, correct? I will agree with that. You got any thoughts on that? What's going to happen?
From what I understand from the information I've gathered, not only will they get the money back that's been stolen from them, but they will be compensated as well for their loss.
Wow.
That's how I understand it right now.
Okay. That's interesting. Justice question here, and we've not talked about this. Maybe it'll be for part 2 or next time we interview together. But they said, what about the corrupt judges in the judicial system? The justice is not served many times until they're gone. We got a 2-tier justice system here in America, Charlie. I never thought we'd have one, but we are there right now. Look, what goes on for many people in DC, we couldn't get away with. Me and you couldn't get away with a hundredth of what people get away with in the elite and the global elites, what they do without any punishment. And then the common man out here gets basically 20 years for the same thing. It's unfair. And there has to be a restructuring of that justice system. Trump's done a lot because there's been a lot of judges that he's appointed, but that judicial system has to be cleaned out both here and in Europe, correct?
Dunham and Barr and 5 other judges or top lawyers have got them all in their sights. I promise you, they haven't missed one. They've got every single one of them in their sights.
Okay, good deal. So that's going to be corrected then.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Final question, and thank you guys for this. And I think this is actually not a bad question either. In your humble opinion, and you can list 1 to 5 in the order of most scumbaggery to the least scumbaggery, they're all scumbags. But who are the main players of the deep state in Charlie Ward's mind? Who are the main players in the deep state drama in this world today? If you had to list them.
Well, most of the people that have been removed, you're talking about Her Majesty the Queen in England, the Pope, the 13 families that controlled the world, the Venetians. Then you've got sort of the next level where you've got the Bill Gates and the George Soroses and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Once the head of the beast was the 13 families, the Venetian families. Once that was removed, the power was gone. And that was done 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago. They were taken out first. That's why Italy was shut down. The Vatican was emptied back 3 months ago as well. And that's where the root of it is. The root of it is 3-pronged. It's the British royal family, and that out of London, the Vatican, and the Federal Reserve.
Okay. That makes sense to me. That makes total sense, because those are the most evil entities we could probably ever have exist in this country. I don't have time to get into it. I know you talked about it on the panel, and your attitude was perfectly like mine. This guy over in England is claiming to be the king of England. You just said you got to wait and see, because we really don't know. This guy could be the biggest fraud in the world, and he could be the real thing. We don't know. I just let these things play out, and whatever happens, happens. But it is intriguing that the Royals have been very quiet lately, have they not?
They've been very quiet. They've been very, very quiet indeed. Things are changing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a fly. I don't think even the flies are allowed to talk right now in Buckingham Palace. I think the rats and the flies have been pretty much put in quarantine like we have in America with COVID-19. The Queen said, if you talk, you're dead. I'm gonna Epstein you. We're gonna Epstein you. I'm gonna hold you over for 3 more minutes. I do have a question for you, and I mentioned this to you before the show, and get your take on it. It has been interesting to me that since Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested, that there has been a massive overflow in the last week. I'm talking just in the last 2 weeks. Because I do a newspaper here in East Tennessee, and we have put headlines on every single day of huge arrests, huge trafficking rings being taken down with multiple dozens of kids, sometimes hundreds of kids being rescued, Charlie. And this is not something out of a right-wing conspiracy paper. These are main headlines across the world with legitimate news organizations. Any connection there that you see? I think there is. I think there's the reason why, since she's been in, this has increased, because somebody is singing beautifully.
First of all, it's not hundreds. It's not even thousands. It's tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
And second of all, yes, she sung like a canary, because had she not cooperated with Trump, she wouldn't be with us anymore.
I'll agree with that. I totally agree with that. And tell everybody, Jenny Hayes out of Facebook, she says, Dr. Ward, what was the name you told us to look up? Was it NESARA?
Look up NESARA. Yeah, NESARA, NESARA. And have a look at it. But there's if you go onto the images, rather than just, because there's a lot of junk in there. Go onto the images. There's a brown image which has 10, 15 pointers with NESARA as the heading, and that's pretty accurate. That's
a good deal. That's absolutely good. That looks like that's got us wrapped up there. Good deal. But, this has been a great time with you. I'm so glad you came on today, and I hope it ain't the last time, and I'm sure we'll connect again on Denise's program and sit on many panels that are ahead. And I just want to know you. I consider you a friend. It's just I love meeting new people, Charlie. It's been an honor to connect and cross paths with you. And I want you to know you've got a welcome format here all the time, anytime. And there's something that you know of that you can share publicly. All you got to do is just contact me, and we'll get you back on immediately, and we'll talk about it. You've got an open door. I'll tell you what I tell everybody. When you come on the McFiles for the first time, you're a guest for like the first 15, 20 seconds. But after that, you're McFiles family, and you are McFiles family now. And I can tell that the chat room was on fire. They really loved you out there. And I want to just thank you for coming on today. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. Final thoughts, final ideas, what you want to leave with people as you leave today.
We're coming into the next 2 weeks are going to be critical. There's a lot of things happening. The word that you need to bear in mind for the next 2 weeks is hibernation. Keep a low profile, keep out of sight, out of mind, because there's a lot of things going on right now, and the government won't tell you the truth, but you don't want to be out there on the streets right now while things are getting dangerous. Okay. There are things that are happening behind the scenes. It's just time to keep a low profile, keep out of the way of trouble, because when we get through this, we'll come out to a far better place. And you can take my word on that one. Things are going to get an awful lot better, but at the moment we're in the thick of it. Things are happening. And there's a lot of things I can tell you. There's a lot of things I can't tell you. But I'm a very positive person right now in a very peaceful place, and I want to share that peace and positivity with you. So don't worry, don't panic. We're coming through.
And I just want to announce that Charlie Ward is not the King of England. I just want to clear that up, just in case there's any rumors. Just in case there's any rumors there, I thought that'd get a laugh out of him. Charlie, thank you. I appreciate you. Hey, listen, tell everybody where they can find you on the internet, and because I want people to stay in touch. And please let Charlie know that you heard him tonight, folks. It's late over there, and I appreciate him staying up for us here. They're 5 or 6 hours ahead of us. Thank you for staying up late to come on today. Tell everybody where they can find you on the internet and connect with you, buddy.
My YouTube is Dr. Charlie Ward, DrCharlieward, Dr. Charlie Ward. The actual my web address is drcharlieward.co.uk. But if you go onto YouTube /Dr. Charlie Ward, or Facebook /Dr. Charlie Ward, or Instagram /Dr. Charlie Ward. You can see me on any of those social media platforms. But thank you very much for having me, Chris. It's an absolute pleasure to join you.
Deep pleasure, but we're going to have you back on soon. And as I said, keep me posted on how things are going over there. And you're educating the host. I've learned a lot today just listening to you again. Every time I've listened to you, I've learned a lot, and I just appreciate your insight to things. And I really do. And you've always got a welcome audience here. As I said, it's an open forum, welcome pasture, and a good harbor here at the McFiles to come on anytime you feel like you can come. And anyway, God bless you out there. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. This will bring to an end our Friday McFiles week, and I couldn't have thought of a better person to wrap the week up with than this man in the picture. I'm going to thank Dr. Charlie Ward for him being with us. Let him know, folks. Let Dr. Ward know you heard him on the McFiles. I'll appreciate that. So will Dr. Ward. And he's just Charlie to me. And blessings to that beautiful young man that Justin. He was such a precious kid that came on. And next time maybe he'll be up and we can see him in person here on the McFiles. Folks, I will see you over the weekend. And we've got a brand new week coming up. And as Charlie said, I wanted to just say one quick thing before we leave. What Charlie said to you at the end, I have had very prophetically gifted people say the same thing. So Charlie's not just whistling Dixie about the hibernation. Keep a low profile out there, folks. Be safe. Use your head. Look, President Trump gave you a hint 2 days ago when he said he doesn't want his supporters engaging in this violence. He doesn't want the supporters to be interacting with what's going on in this country. There's a reason he said that, because what Charlie just said is what he's hearing. It's what others are hearing. And there's an old verse, proverb, whatever you want to call it, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. In the multitude of counsel, there's wisdom. In the multitude of words, there's wisdom. You're hearing wisdom this afternoon. Be safe. Be safe. Hunker down, stay low, and keep your head on a swivel out there. and watch the McFiles Monday through Friday right here. God bless you out there. Until Sunday, we'll see you Sunday morning. Until then, Chris McDonald for Charlie Ward. Have a good afternoon. Good weekend, everybody. Have a great Labor Day. I'll see you Sunday, though. Charlie, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you guys. Have a good day, everybody.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.